So hello, everyone. It is a brand new month, November, and it is our NaNoWriMo season. And welcome to Liberty Librarian. I'm Heather Biederman, and we are having a very, very special NaNoWriMo National Novel Writing Month special episode where we have guest authors on the show. And you get to be in your very own book club with us. Well, it's not a book club like we're reading, an authors club. What is an authors club? Would you say, like, is there a cooler way of saying it? Like a mob of writers, or a murder of
only if we're mystery writers.
A quarrel of writers.
I like quarrel. That works.
A what?
A quarrel.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that. A quorum. Well, here we are in our quorum, and we will represent. And I'm just so happy to have everyone here today. We have a very special show ahead of us. We're gonna talk about writing, and we're gonna do a little writing together. So if you are writing your own novel at home, you're gonna get a chance to do that today. So please join us. And I'm going to let the ladies introduce themselves. So Laura, take it away.
Well, hi, I'm Laura LaVoie, and I am a writer. I write fiction, but I also write for a living. I write content for small business clients and things like that. But I've been doing National Novel Writing Month. Well, the website says I've been doing it since 2012, but I had an old account that I lost ages ago. I think I started doing it like 2004 or something like that. But I've only won Nano twice. One was a few years ago. I finished a novel that I'm currently querying, so I'm trying to find an agent for it. And then I finished one, well, I didn't even finish last year. Technically, I didn't win. I got to like 49,000 words, and that was it. But I've since finished that novel, so I consider it a win. And I'm working on a new project right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. Allyson, you're next.
Hey, how are you doing? So I have been writing for, I just started mentoring a guy who's started writing, and he's my age. So I was like, I'm 50. I've been writing for 40 years. Wow, that's a long time. But I've only been doing Nano since, December 3rd, 2008 was when I joined. So in that time, I've had 5 wins and 3 published books. And I had a book published outside of Nano, which was separate through a small indie publisher. So I have self-published, so I'm one of those lovely KDP people, but I've had some fairly decent recognition with my latest, which is the Reenactors Cookbook. So it's nonfiction, and I did do that 2 years ago for NaNoWriMo, and that was something I will never do again. I will write cookbooks again, but I'm never doing it for Nano. It does not scan well.
Oh, I wondered about that.
It wasn't a problem with the word count, because I do this. It's probably the only cookbook you'll ever pick up that has like 140 footnotes and a full bibliography. But it's hard because you bounce around more when you're writing something like a cookbook than you do when you're writing fiction. And I found it just did not mesh well for me. So I'm writing sci-fi this year, and I'm like 8,365 words in.
Hell yeah. Way to go. Jill, take it.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Valuet. I've been doing NaNoWriMo, I think, since 2009. I've done it 9 times, but I skipped a couple of years in there. So I'm not exactly sure when I started. I've hit the 50,000 mark every single time. That doesn't mean I had a book worth reading by the end of it. Of those 9, I had 3 that I ended up finishing the drafts and revising. 2 of them I ended up querying, and they're both still sitting on the shelf right now, because after I sent it out, I realized all the issues that I need to fix before anybody will pick it up. So this year, I am being a Nano rebel. I am not following the official format. I am using NaNoWriMo as a motivation to get me to write every single day. I'm working on a nonfiction this time, which is my first time trying that for Nano. It's a book about what I do, which is dog massage. And I'm kind of using this as, I'm not trying to hit the word count every day, because what I found in the past is that I was obsessed with the word count. It didn't matter if they were the right words, as long as I hit the words. How I got to 50,000 words. This year, I'm trying to make sure that the words that I write are the ones that I actually want to use, rather than a lot of wasted words. So that's why I'm doing it kind of unofficially, so that I'm not feeling that pressure to hit the 50,000 words. I'm just going to write every day and go from there. So very excited.
I love it. I'm also, I never did say what I was doing. I am also a Nano rebel this year. I'm doing a nonfiction book. I'm actually have ideas for a couple. So if I get them kind of like one of them finished, I can go right into the next one. I've done NaNoWriMo. God, I think it was like, I'm trying to remember what the first year was. I didn't do it the first year. I was working at a college as a librarian, and we had a group of students do it with me. And so we did NaNoWriMo at my first library job for years. And most years I get pretty close to 50,000. The last couple of years, not so much. I get really excited at the beginning, and then I poop out towards the end. This year I'm trying something very different. I've won a couple times. I had an old account that's gone, and now I'm like, so I don't know how many times I won, but the new one says I haven't lately. So I'm going to work on that. Let's see. I'm using a new system this year instead of just typing it out, which I'm pretty slow because I overthink it. I over edit while I'm writing. So this year I'm doing dictation for some of the first rough draft parts, which is hard with nonfiction. Some of it I'm just like, oh, I gotta look that up. What's that? But it's going really fast. So I think for me, just to get the ideas down first, I'm kind of doing an outline like I'm teaching a class. So each chapter is like I'm teaching. So I'm talking and teaching. And then later I'll go back and edit the hell out of it, because I looked at it right away and went, it's scary. I'm going to a lot of editing afterwards, but it's going super fast. So this year, I'm sure I'm going to get 50,000 really quick, but I'm going to have a lot of editing. So well, I'm excited.
And editing is a December problem. That's kind of the mantra of National Novel Writing Month. Just go and don't worry about editing. You can deal with that in December.
Exactly. I'm the opposite of that. I don't do any editing. I word vomit. November is word vomit month. December is, oh my God, I'm not writing anything. I sing Christmas carols, I cook, and I bake. That's it. January, on the other hand, is let's get down to brass tacks. My thing every year is I sit down, and January is editing month. So
I think January is a great time to start editing, because you're kind of trapped inside. I feel like there's not a lot of major holidays, and you're, like you don't really want to drive anywhere. So why not edit, or write, even if you're like totally done editing and everything. I mean, it seems like a great time of year to do it. And
you got all those, sorry, I was gonna say, you got all those new, it's the new year, and I have, I've promised I'm going to write and do rewriting and editing.
And then, like usually I like do it for about 2 weeks and then I stop, but still it's a good idea to do it. And I like what Jill said, where you just get in the habit of doing something all the time. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just every day do a little bit more writing, because that's my goal, is to get really good at getting ideas down, because I have all these books in my head and they aren't going anywhere.
Same. And I'm trying to get back in the habit of doing just 15 minutes a day. That's it. And that to me is around, depending on the day, it's around 1,000 words. But,
really great.
That's right. And if I can get myself back into that habit, then before I know it, I'll have several books ready to go too.
Hell yeah. And I want all of us to be published more. Oh, am I frozen? Did I freeze?
No. We see you.
No. Okay.
You're moving.
Okay, good. I was like, oh no, everything froze. I'm like, oh God, that's always the fun of live streams. No, I mean, I think you get writing and then you get all these great ideas down and share them with the world. And I'd like us all to be millionaires by the end of this, honestly.
Me too.
Yes.
I have a boyfriend I would just love to keep. Just saying.
Yes, you could be a kept man. My husband would
And
be delighted.
he's near retirement age, so he'd be good with that.
I know. Like
He's
husband,
actually so Nano leads to, of course, editing and typesetting and cover making and all the rest of it. And he actually did all my typesetting for all but my first book.
Nice.
what a great thing.
He does it for work. He doesn't do books for work, but he does manuals, and that's his
cool.
job. And so he has all the tools at home because they sent him to work from home. So the pandemic was spent doing editing for me, which was awesome.
Perfect.
That's so great. I mean, and to have somebody, that's close to you that can help with that takes a lot of the pressure off of you to do it. And then they get excited too because they're part of it.
I put his name in the front cover.
Heck yeah. I love that. So you all kind of like writing, right? I'm getting that from our talk so far.
I really like having written.
Yeah.
That's a fair statement.
I mean, I don't have any books published, but I have short stories.
Same.
And seeing that get published, like, it changed everything. Once you see your words in print somewhere, you're just like, holy crap, it's real. Right. And then you get this confidence, like, I could do more. Right. I could do better. and every time you do get a little bit better. So, I mean, we're learning from it. So, I mean, I want to mention this to people who are new and they've always wanted to write a book, but they're like, oh, no one's going to want to read my stuff. Like, every single person out there has their story to tell.
Absolutely. And more than one.
Exactly. And you have your own unique voice. You don't have to sound like the next Stephen King or, Julia Child or anything. You have to do you. And
it's also something that takes practice. You're not going to be a best-selling author on your very first novel, your very first try.
I would like to be one eventually. That would be awesome.
That'd be great too.
And you grow. Like my first vampire novel, I think I've sold 300 copies. And I considered that pretty darn good. I was happy with that. My second one, I've sold, like 700 copies. I was pretty pleased with that. But the cookbook, so when it hit,
and every time
the 1 year, I sold 1,000. Just I'm either a couple short or a couple over. I won't know because the numbers on KDP take a while. But I am basically at 1,000 books the first year.
Yay, that's great.
For an indie author who is self-published,
so awesome.
that's like the golden chalice. It's the grail. I'm selling
listening
more.
To a book by Joanna Penn, and she started off, she didn't sell hardly anything right away when she did her books. She does nonfiction and fiction and has a couple different pen names. But like she said, you get practice, and then every time you start seeing that number grow and it grows. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm making some money. I actually can live on this, and that's the dream, honestly, that we're all like, we'll get to that point where we have like an island in the Bahamas that we just can go visit whenever we feel like.
I like it.
I wouldn't mind that.
One of the things I wanted to say for people who are writing, if the likelihood of becoming a best-selling fictional author is really low, especially with the advent of KDP and on print on demand and things like that. It's hard. And I didn't go into this to make $1 million or to push my books. That I did it because I have stories in my head, and if I don't get those people out, they start talking through me and bad things happen. So, yeah. But I also write on the side, like I blog for people, and I've ghostwritten articles and things like that. And those things do pay. But one of the things that I really have to push to people is don't sell yourself short. The first time I had a partner's, his at his work, they wanted articles written for their professional blog. And he suggested me, and I was like, okay, sure. And so I talked to the boss, and the boss was like, okay, well, you're going to sign this non-disclosure agreement. And, I looked at it, and they basically wanted me to write for free.
Oh,
They wanted me to write 4 articles a month and not work for anyone else
wow.
in the industry, in the writing industry.
That's BS, man.
And I'm like, no, I'm worth more than that.
Absolutely.
And you have to, there's that fine line between aggrandizing yourself and putting yourself down. And it's hard because I'm worth something, but I'm not better than anybody else. I'm just better at what I'm doing.
And I think that if they're taking advantage of you like that, that's not cool at all. You need to have value and show that, you know what, this takes time. Writing doesn't just happen.
Right.
You have to be thoughtful. You do training. I mean, you learn over time and how to be a better writer. So to get it for free, or what was the thing that they always wanted to say? Like
exposure.
Exposure.
People die of exposure every year.
Exactly. I would die of exposure because I'd get hungry.
I have always said to potential clients who tell me that they can't pay me, but they can give me a lot of exposure. Like, if you get enough exposure that I'm going to get a lot of exposure, you can pay me. I promise.
Exactly. Well, and I wanted to mention that Laura does that very same thing. She writes for other clients too. And could you talk a little bit about that, Laura?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I mean, I do content writing for small businesses and marketing companies. So yeah, I write basically my specialization is the blog writing. So if you have a website and you need the SEO and, there's a long, complicated science behind it. But having a blog on your website really, really helps people find you and see you and find you on Google and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I create. So regular content for businesses. And is it my life's dream to write about, staffing? Probably not, but it does pay the bills and I don't hate it. So I do it. And I'm totally cool with that.
Well, and then I'm sure it makes it so you get a little more efficient with writing and, and you maybe even get some ideas from stuff,
Sure.
You go, hey, this character could be a staffing person from, because I wrote a whole thing on it. I know everything about this now. You could incorporate it, but I mean, who knows,
That's true. A few years ago, I did a nano that I did not finish at all, but the premise was Superhuman Resources, and it was a staffing agency with superheroes. And it was a dumb idea, but I was having fun with it until I gave it up. And yeah, it's just sitting in a file, probably about 10,000 words, and that's it.
Dude, I could totally see that as a TV series, honestly.
That'd be awesome.
If anyone wants to make that TV series, contact me. I will sell you the idea.
I love that. Well, and I think about the fact that you bring skills from your past into the present. And I know with Jill, like you've done graphic design, you still do graphic design, and you work with doggies, and you have beautiful doggy massage or Reiki, and you take really good care of them, and you put a lot of heart into everything you do. And I think, I wonder, does that kind of change the way you write?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's what's given me the idea to even write this book, is because a friend of ours heard about what I was doing, and she's like, you need to write this because I can sell it.
Heck yeah.
And then it was like, okay, well, there's a lot of dog massage books out there. So what do I write about? And I'm actually going through this workshop with someone that I can go into more detail if anybody's interested, but he helped me break this idea down from something big and way out over here into something tangible that was way more than I expected it to be. And what I discovered is that my book isn't about dog massage. It's about how to use your dog to help you feel better. Because what I've realized is that I am so much happier and healthier every time I work on an animal. And it's not a secret. It's something that anybody could do, and any pet lover could learn to do this. And so this book that, started out as this idea of like this how-to thing has just kind of blown up into something totally different that I would have had no idea if somebody else hadn't said, you should write about this, because I was always so stuck in writing fiction books. Yeah.
I have had similar. I wrote my cookbook, and that's been very popular. And somebody said, well, you found your niche. And I was like, no, I write a little bit of everything. I have a historical fiction based on my grandma's life. I have a fantasy novel that I wrote last Nano. I have my science fiction I'm working on this year. And I wasn't really intending. And then I thought, no, maybe I'll put together a couple more just kind of in the background and put them together. And when they're full, I'll publish them. And I wasn't stressing over getting them done. But then a friend of mine had an apartment fire. Ooh. And he had to move into his van. And in doing so, he decided to join the van life, #van life. Mm-hmm. And so I became introduced to this huge network of people. And all of a sudden people were like, do you have any van life recipes? And so that's actually what the next cookbook is. And I'm working on that very seriously. When I went to an author signing, and this is the whole network thing that happens with Nano and meeting people locally, especially. I went to an author signing at something called the Duck Race Day. They take people raise money by buying these little rubber ducks, and they have numbers on them, and they dump them in their river. Mm-hmm. And they have a big net at the other end. So they catch them all, and the first person through wins money. It's the cutest thing. I mean, there's millions of these ducks floating down this river. It's so cool. And everybody's cheering. It's cool. But they had something called Author Alley, and a bunch of us were asked to come and set up a booth. So I went with my, my banner and all that stuff, and dressed up in my medieval clothes because it gets a lot of attention, and that attention has people come in, and so I do that, and also because I like wearing my medieval clothes. But I was talking with my friend Dan about the van life book, and the lady next to me turned out to be a publisher for this area.
Oh, cool.
And she was like, do you have a publisher yet? And I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, so here's the thing. When do you think you'll be kind of maybe a quarter of the way through the first draft? And I'm like, probably in the spring, because I get NaNoWriMo. And she's like, so how about I'll around March, I'll look for a query from you.
Wow.
I'm like,
awesome.
Wow.
That's a good
okay.
That's fantastic.
And, and then somebody else from there's an actual publisher who's part of the van life who emailed me and said, do you have a publisher yet? So now I have to make choices.
That's
like,
a good thing.
Famine to feast. So, this is what Nano does for people. And I love to express that because it's so important. When we talk to each other, sometimes it's long range stuff like what we're doing now, but a lot of times when before the plague, I went out to author events. We would go to write-ins at the library or at the community center, and we hung out together, and we went to the author's night at the local restaurant, and we all had dinner. We got to know each other, and because of that I met Dan, and because of Dan I met these publishers. It all leads one thing to another, and it's such a wonderful thing, and Nano is responsible for all of that.
That's awesome.
I totally agree. I as a librarian, I miss we'd have all these book events where local authors would come, and we'd get to meet them, and we started doing it virtually, but it's just not the same as being able to afterwards just go, hey, can I have a couple minutes of your time, and then talk, and you really connect to a lot of people. I've met some local publishers that way. You really got to put yourself out there, and it's hard for introverts. Yes. A lot of us writers are shy people normally, but you got to kind of let that go. Get excited about your writing and talk to people about it,
And it's easy, and it's easier, when you're excited about something and what you're writing about, that makes it a lot easier to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
So true.
I've been working on this science fiction novel, and I had it partially written. So normally for anybody who's listening, normally with Nano, you start with the first page or whatever you're starting with, and you write the 50,000 words, and they're more or less in order, roughly. That's the traditional method of writing.
Some people go back and forth, but it depends on you.
Right. And then there are people like me who rebel and go off and do cookbooks instead. But when you're writing traditionally, you start with the beginning of the book. Well, I started this book in the spring because I thought I would have time to write all summer. And it turned out that I didn't because fairs opened. And so I was selling my cookbook and dressed up and cooking over fires instead of writing, which was fine. But I didn't get the writing done. So I said, well, I'll do it for NaNoWriMo. So when I started this, I already had, and I'm like looking at my list here, I had 13,651 words that I started with. And so that's my 0.0. So I'm still going to write 50,000 words, but I got to make it to 63,651. And it's a sci-fi novel. The average sci-fi novel is 120,000 words. It's not going to be finished at 63,000.
Right. You're going to be about halfway there.
But you will get part of the way there, and that will be a step in the right direction.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, the project I worked on last year, I write women's fiction. So kind of your beach reads, your book club reads. And I started one last year, and I'd already written about 5,000 words. So I started there at 0 and I made it to 49,000 words and then stopped. But I've since finished it, and it took me a year to finish the whole story. It's the right number of words. It needs a heavy edit because I didn't finish it until October. but I honestly think it's better than my last book, the book I'm even trying to query. So once I feel like I can revise it, because like you said, you need a break from that. Yes. I think I believe in the book, and I think it's a really good story. So I'm excited to get back to it. And now I'm writing a completely other story. So when you're excited about what you're doing, it really does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I totally agree. Oh, so before we get started on doing a writing sprint, I wanted to ask each of you, what is your NaNoWriMo style? And I have to explain this. There's things called pantsers, which is writing by the seat of your pants. Like you have no idea. You're just going to write. There's, what is it?
Planners.
Planners, plotters. And then there's the ones that are kind of in between where they get a little rough.
Plantsers.
But they, you kind of write the plantsers. That's it. Oh, thank you. I'm glad we have smart women in this.
That's me.
So what do you? So Allyson, what's your style?
So when I did my first few NaNoWriMos, which I will note, I did not win. I was a pantser. I came into it. I went, I'm just going to sit and write, and we'll see what turns out. That did not work well for me. Now, this is not to say it does not work well for everybody. It does. I know plenty of people who have published amazing novels that do it pantser and do great. For me, it didn't work. Then I tried doing the very structured, the cookbook. So that was all planning all the time.
Yes.
And while it worked for that book, it isn't my writing style. Mm-hmm. And when the last couple of years when I've been writing fiction, I do a hybrid. So I have like a half dozen point form pieces that kind of cover the book. I know what's going to happen in the beginning. I know what's going to happen at the end. I have some of the big plot points kind of written out, or at least, point formed. And then I work my way through it from there. And I don't always write in order, which, if you looked at my manuscript right now, there's a part that I have a co-author in this book who's not involved in the NaNoWriMo part because I don't do heavy science, but I want this to be a heavy science book.
No.
So
an expert.
My co-author is the person who does all the math shit. And I just,
it's okay.
What I do is I put square brackets, and then in all caps, I write fill this in with sex scene, or fill this in with scientific gobbledygook,
Science
or
shit,
fill this
here.
in with conversation about cats. And then I just
Right.
move on because I don't want to waste my time. I'm not interested in writing that. I need help writing it. It's boring me. I may find inspiration and go back and write it later, but for the moment, I'm not touching that. And so there's like a whole bunch of those because I just could not get my butt in gear the first 4 days of Nano. Today, I finally reached the exciting part of my sci-fi book. There are aliens. I'm not saying there were aliens, but there are aliens. And now I'm all excited and fired up, and I've been writing like crazy. So
I'm so glad. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, Jill, how about you? What's your style?
My answer is yes.
There's a style.
Because pretty much, kind of like Allyson, I've tried all of the above. The first couple, I totally pantsered. I do know at least 1 year I had no idea what I was going to write until like a couple days before, and then just sat down and started doing it. And that was not one of the years that I completed the story. I hit the 50,000 words, but they were a lot of useless words.
Yeah.
And then I've had other years where I plotted out the entire thing and was bored and also couldn't finish that story. So I have to do somewhere in between, kind of like Allyson. I know the beginning and I usually have an idea about the end, and I usually have a lot of character development going on, and then the rest I kind of discover along the way. Now this year is different. I'm doing the nonfiction, and I have pretty extensive notes on this. So I have a whole list of topics I can choose from at any time and pick one of those. And that's what I'm going to write about today. So I'm not writing in order. I'm writing whatever I feel like writing on any given day. And I'm keeping them all as individual pages so that I can then pick and choose what I want and put them in order later. So we'll see how that goes.
And sometimes, like you said, it depends on what you're writing,
Right.
like and where you're coming from with it. How about you, Laura?
I am a classic plantser. So it's the right by the seat of your pants plus a little planning. So I used to be a pantser, as a lot of us were. So I would just sit down on November 1st with a vague idea and think I could write 50,000 words. And that was, like everybody said, those are the years you do not write 50,000 words, or you do, and they're terrible words.
Mm-hmm.
So I use, I write out a little outline. I use the Save the Cat beat sheet. Save the Cat, Write the Novel is a great book. So I plotted out, and this one is even crazier because it's a 3-generational epic story. So I've got individual little plot lines for each group, each generation. So I've got, the basic beats. So it's just the idea of, the inciting incident, and then what happens and how it's supposed to end, and just this, like, the beats in the middle. So everything else I have to fill in as I'm writing. And like, I will hit 10,000 words today while we sprint. But some of it is, I didn't know it was going to happen. I'm like, oh, they're doing this now. Okay. Did not know that. So there's discovery in it too. But yeah, so I plants. So a little bit of all of the above.
I think it's amazing that we all kind of have a similar writing style. I started as a seat of the pants because I thought, well, I hate the idea of planning, but the practicality of it is my writing was total shit when I would just do seat of the pants. It would go all over the place, and some of it was really cool, but a lot of it was really poopy. Oh my God. It was just like, oh, it makes no sense. And then I get angry about halfway through. I'm like, this story sucks. I give up, and I don't like failing in it. I feel like it fails if you give up on it. So for me, I like at least having a general outline. It doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes I'll go through in the story, and then I will get to a point, and then I'll be like, in the intro, I wanted to add this. So I may just write that section and then add it. I jump around because I'll get a great idea for the the climax. So like, holy crap, this is awesome. I write it right now. And then you can fill in. But for me, I I think what kind of worked is sort of similar to what Laura had for fiction. Is I like it's like a 9 plot point grid with each inside each plot point it breaks down like into character development and your arch of what's happening and how you go and character. You want to have your character actually come around full circle and see development of some sort, but and that's kind of fun. But for NaNoWriMo, it almost is like too much for me. So, and that's when if I overplan, then I get like sick of it halfway. So I like it to be real flexible. And so I am definitely a plantser in general, especially with this project. My nonfiction is definitely plants, and I'm trying dictation software this time. I won't do it. I won't put you guys through that during our writing sprint because that'd be weird.
That'd be fun.
I do too.
Because they'll be like, oh, okay, exercise. This is what we're going to do. Blah, 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 blah. And you'll be like, I can't even write my own stuff because Heather keeps talking the whole time.
And the next thing you know, that little piece of that is in all of our novels. It's okay.
Like we had a workout routine. It was amazing.
How can I fit that into 1931 Asheville? Let's figure this out.
We'll make them all dogs. It'll work for my book.
I love that. If we all had like our stories cross over and it made no sense, but somehow magically it did.
Perfect.
So I think that's a good stopping point for us to do our first writing sprint. And for those of you at home, writing sprint is just where we all sit and get our stuff out. Some of us write by hand. I don't write by hand. Do you guys write on your computer?
Oh no, I type.
So I'm gonna I'll have this going in the background. It'll have some light music, and that way when the music stops, we'll know. That way I'm not like, wait, 8 hours later. Like we kept writing, and then we finished our books, and they're like, oh my God, we're still live. I should work eventually. No, it's like you do you however you want. I'm not going to do dictation during this, but I have my outline here so I can look at what I'm writing and fill in some stuff. So we'll do 15 minutes, then we'll come back and talk some more and see how we feel, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna like mute myself during this. That way.
Oh yes, yeah, and I have to move my microphone out of the way because it's in my way.
Exactly.
Yep, you get to see my funny looking stuff. There we go. You get to see my double chin when it's not up on the stand.
I love it. And then you get to see us all writing at home. So it's like going to the zoo and seeing writers in their natural habitat.
No kidding. I've been able to have very intense facial expressions when I write, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to watch this later and just watch our faces. Well, enjoy writing. I will see you guys in 15 minutes.
Perfect.
And that is 15 minutes.
Wow, that went fast.
It did, really did. I was looking and I'm like, I wonder, I should check. It's probably like only been a minute. And they're like, oh my God, it's only 1 minute. So how'd it go?
Very fast.
Very fast.
15 minutes is not a lot of time to write. You start kind of getting warmed up. But for people watching at home, right away, it might seem really hard. Here's my cat. He's just been dying since I've been writing. He wanted me to hold him. I'm like, oh, kitty. He's my biggest fan. I'm gonna put you down though, buddy. There you go. If not, he'll be up here sticking his cat butt in the camera, and that's not what anyone wants. No, it went really good for me. I'm glad to hear it. It went super quick. 15 minutes is not enough time to really get a lot done, but it's enough to get some ideas started. And I think, Jill, you said it earlier, is that, even if you just do 15 minutes, you're writing every day.
Yep. And it becomes a habit.
That drip into the bucket. It'll start filling that bucket up, and you're going to get a book out of it eventually.
Yep. More than one.
More than one. Many. Maybe not millions. I was going to go millions, but I'm like, I don't know, millions, but a lot.
A few.
A few books. And it's actually kind of fun. I feel like, once I get started doing it, I just see the ideas like popping up throughout the day. I get in that zone where I'm kind of like, I wish I didn't have to actually be at work because I have this great idea. I wish I could sit down right now and write it all down.
Right.
So
pesky jobs getting in the way. How rude.
I know. It's good to have food. I do like that, but that's my hope, is I get really good at this, and someday when I'm retired, that's all I have to do, all I want to do.
Yes. I'm lucky in that in my family, I'm the one who's been the stay-at-home mom. So the kids, if they turn 16 on the 1st, they don't need me running after them all the time.
Yay!
So, they're doing their own thing. And one of them is homeschooling. New Hampshire has this cool thing where it's an online school. And it's been going for 10 years now. And it's very organized and very awesome. They have a much higher academic quality than the local brick and mortar school. So we have one that goes to the VLAX school full time, and one that goes to the brick and mortar half the time and does VLAX the other half of the time. And so, they don't need me other than to check their homework once in a while or answer a question. They're mostly learning online. So I have all this writing time now.
That's awesome. It's the beauty of them getting older, is that you get a little more time for you to do things. I love that.
Yes.
So do you have like times during the day where you do your writing? Like, when is it like everybody's working at the same time, so you guys all go to your own spaces, or what?
I usually write right after breakfast, because that's the time when I write the best. I've tried different times, and I did okay. I got 513 words jammed out through that little moment. I can live with that. Yeah. But I usually have like 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours in the morning where I'm sitting here and I'm word vomiting, or I'm editing if it's not NaNoWriMo, or I'm filling in things, and that works for me. I don't write as well in the afternoons and the evenings, partly because, I want to go spend time with the family and everybody else has done their work for the day, but partly just I'm not a morning person. Like, I'm sitting here sucking back my coffee, but I like that morning vibe works for me. So
I love that. Oh, and I see my other Freedom Revolution Network host, Tim Parsons, is saying hello. He said he was going to check us out. And so, hi, welcome, Tim. And he wants to write a book too. And he thinks his stuff is too controversial to write. And I'm like, just do it.
No, just write it. Because what's the worst can happen? No one reads it. So no one will read it if you don't write it.
Absolutely.
It's so true. I know, it's like, and morning. Yeah. I think a lot of times morning is nice and quiet, and I know my husband's not a morning person, so I can get the whole like house to myself and write and get everything the way I like it, and then be done. It's sort of like brushing your teeth. You do it in the morning and you get it done and out of the way.
Yep, I'm the same way. And even with my graphic design work, I do all my best work in the morning.
Oh yeah,
Me
the more
too.
creative
And
stuff.
again, I'm not a super morning person either, but I'm not an evening person either. So I don't know what time of day mine is, but I'm most productive in the morning.
See, it used to be when I was younger that I was late. I would, get up late and I would stay up late, and I could stay up till the middle of the night, and I'd be fine. Now it's like I go to sleep if I'm not in bed by like 11. The world is just, I can't function the next day. I need 8 hours of sleep, and it's crazy. So now I have to go to bed early, and I'm getting up early.
Yep,
What the heck? I don't like this at all. Isn't there some sort of adultier adult? I don't like this.
Well,
I know it, right? Well, if I try to stay up too late, my cats yell at me and tell me.
Same with my dogs; they won't let me sleep.
There's no sleeping past 7 a.m. with the cat suddenly meowing at you because she wants her food.
We have bunnies and they get fed at night, so
Nice.
Oh,
She gets fed at night too.
She likes what she likes. I hear you. Well, no, I mean, I think that it's just good to build time into your day. No matter whatever works for you. Weirdly enough, creative stuff in the morning, but like my boring schoolwork, I like to do that at night, just so I'm like, okay, the world has crushed me enough. I might as well get this done with. So, I save the good stuff for the morning.
I actually find I'm more creative in the morning, and I'm better at editing in the afternoon, and I don't know why. I don't edit well in the morning. I don't know if I tend to doom scroll in the morning, and so
I like that.
It's a thing. It's true, but
you're like, what's terrible things are happening?
Do I even want to know? Yeah, I do most of my work in the morning. I tend to, because I do business writing or, client writing. I do that in the morning, which, kind of sucks during Nano. I used to when I worked like a full-time job. Like I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and, before I even took a shower, I would sit down and I'd write for a half an hour and then I'd get ready for work. But I don't have to do that anymore. So, but because my client work is what pays me, that's what I prioritize. Yeah. So I make sure I get that done in the morning and then I can write the rest of the day. But if I work really hard and I get everything done by like noon, I have the rest of the day to write fiction. So cool. I try to do that.
I would do that. I don't know though, like, okay, with my new gig, I get summers off now, which is like a beautiful, luxurious thing. But last summer I didn't write for shit. I don't know why.
Because you didn't make a habit out of it. That's why.
Right. Yeah. And now I'm hoping that if I start this, I keep doing it like every day. At least half an hour is what I'm hoping. Because then I'll keep doing it. And then next summer, maybe I'll be super like book creating woman, like making books every week. Who knows?
See, I have seasons.
Oh, yeah.
So like November through the end of February is writing season. And then it overlaps with editing season, which starts in January and goes through to like the second week of May. And the second week of May is when Ren fairs start.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm Ren fair back to back. I spend most weekends from Friday through to Sunday night, sometimes Monday mornings, in canvas in long dresses and veils and with no running water and no modern amenities. And so there's no way to write out there.
Right.
And honestly, it's so exhausting. I mean, I love it. I would not give it up for anything.
But you can't do both.
You can't. And so by the time I get home on a Monday morning, all I really want is a hot bath, some coffee, and for people to leave me the hell alone. So I call summer now is marketing season. So
that works.
cool.
here's the thing I learned is that I have to sell myself.
Yes.
And it sucks because I don't think I have the whole imposter syndrome thing. And as many times as I tell other people, imposter syndrome only happens to people who are actually good at what they do, because if you're not good at what you do, you don't have imposter syndrome. So, I mean, I know I'm good at this. People are buying the book and writing emails to me and fan mail and stuff. So, I mean, I'm doing okay. But it's hard to get into your head that other people actually care about what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so standing up and going, "Hi, I'm Allyson. I'm an author," without sniggering under my breath at myself is really hard. And so this summer, it was really challenging being out there and holding this thing, which I made, and going, "You should buy this. Here's why you should buy this." And not feeling bad about it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
As a self-published author, you're a business person. I mean, you're not just a writer. You've got a small business, and now you need to market it like a small business. So,
and so I have to know all the things that I have to know, all of the publishing things, all of the. I actually, my fiction books, I have my covers made, and I'm actually going to show you why. So this was the original cover of my first novel. Let me see if I can get it in there. Okay. I love it. It was cute. I had a designer kind of work on part of it, but it's, and it's got this cool skull on the spine. Okay. But this is not going to sell in a bookstore. It's just not. No. And I know because it didn't. This is the cover of the new one, and there's a matching cover for the second edition of the first one, and you can see the character on the front now. That's what sells. And so I have a fictional cover person who makes my covers. I purchase my covers. She works with me. I own the fonts, I own the images. She makes them for me and sells them to me. And I will say it is the best money I have ever spent, and it's worth it, even though it takes away from my profits, because I'm not a graphics artist. Now, I lucked out. That's my photo, and I designed the cover. But
it looks great.
It did turn out really well. Normally, I would not have even attempted it, but I really wasn't thinking it was going to sell a lot of copies outside of Ren fairs. And so I wasn't really all that worried about it. I just wanted a cover on it so that people could buy it. And I made it. And then I had, first off, my cover artist actually emailed me and went, "Oh my God, who did you get to do that? You bitch. You're supposed to come to me." And I went, no, that was me. And she's like, "What do you need me for now?" I'm like, no, you get all the fiction. You can have the fiction. I don't want to do it. But I lucked out because it worked out okay. And I feel comfortable designing the cookbooks because it's a little different and it's easy to know what people want, because I have 8 billion cookbooks and they have very few formats. They really do. The interiors have half a dozen formats. That's it. Fiction books, everything is different. You have to look at all these different things.
Changes all the time. It's very trendy, and if you don't change with the times, it gets left behind. So you are so right.
And it's not easy because when you're being an indie author, you have to do everything on your own. You are your own marketer. You are the person who's going out and getting your book into. I wrote to 600 libraries.
Wow.
I wrote to all of the big newspapers. I wrote to the New York Times, to the Boston Globe, to the Los Angeles Tribune or Triumph or whatever, all the big ones. I wrote to every local newspaper around because I could get done. Well, the result was I had, 30 libraries contact me for books, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
It is.
And you have to be putting yourself out all the time. So a friend of mine runs
a book with you too. Like you never know when you're going to meet somebody who hey, you write books? And you go, as a matter of fact, this is the one I wrote.
Well, here's the thing. So I have a friend who has a local store. It's called the Melamine Cup. She sells ephemera. Cool stuff from the 40s through the 80s. Neatest store you'll ever be in. November 6th is the first Saturday of November is her big Christmas rollout, and it's huge. Thousands of people come into her tiny little store.
Nice.
And I used to work it, but I didn't last year, and now she has other people, which is fine because I was just covering for her. And she was talking about it, and I said, I'd love to set up my booth right outside your door. And she's like, she called me on the phone before I had a chance to hit enter and was like, yes. So Saturday morning, I'm going to be all dressed up because I sold myself.
Yay!
Yes,
Exactly.
that is awesome.
Awesome.
I love that. That's
So.
what we all should be doing. You know, like when we get our books ready, hot in our hot little hands, you know, talk to everybody. You never know who's going to help out or be
Right.
excited for you.
It's true. And when you're writing nonfiction, you have one up because you have a joke.
Yes.
People will say, oh, did you write a book? You go, yes, I wrote the book on it. It's my only joke. You've heard it now. You can leave. But buy a copy.
and people, it's weird because, you know what, that person might not be as interested in your book, but they're like, I know somebody who's into cooking or cookbooks or SCA or reenactment and history, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to tell them about your book. How do I get it? I'm going to write down your name. And that person might make that other person into a fan. And, you know, like we're all interconnected.
And having that makes writing the next book easier.
I bet.
Because you have people who are saying, what are you writing next?
Exactly.
I want a copy of your next book.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden there's that little bit of pressure. And it's not huge because people know authors are kind of quirky, but knowing that there's somebody out there who actually wants to hear what I have to write makes such a huge difference. It makes me want to write more.
Yeah.
Nice.
We do need a little bit of that love, you know. I mean, authors, we are a little bit fickle, but we like to know that somebody's at least interested. You know, like, oh, I'd read that. You're like, really? Cool. I'm not the only one who's thinking that this would be a good idea, you know? Like, so I think it is not a bad idea to talk to people. And, you know, like, it's really easy to just go tell your friends, like, what you're writing, and we're all, like, very supportive of each other. But maybe sometimes talk to people that you would normally, like, if you hear they like cooking, you know, like, talk about your, like, this, and like, oh, what kind of cookbook would you like to see made? And then maybe that'll give you an idea for your next book, you know,
Right.
or something that you're like, oh, I'm not ever writing that book, but I know the book you want. And then they'll remember that you were the cool lady who told them about that. And then maybe they'll go check out your book anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, it's human connection is the big thing with all of this. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm just like the marketing side scares me a little bit though.
Same.
It's terrifying, but
Yeah.
I think it's been good for me, like on a mental level. I have to think of reasons why I'm good at stuff, and that's, you know, I mean, it's an affirmation thing. But I mean, like I contacted. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking like Stuart Smalley. What did he say? It was like, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And
gosh darn it, people like me.
People like me. Yes, that's what I was thinking. But go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, one of the places that I buy my herbs, because medieval cooking has all sorts of weird herbs that nobody's modern heard of, cubebs and grains of paradise and nigella and things like that. And so I have a place that I go and pick them up, and I contacted them and I sent an email out to them and said, well, you know, what do you say we do an author signing at the store? Oh my gosh, they went over the top. They wanted me to come and do a cooking demo. And so I ended up selling a ton of books there. They actually bought 40 books from me to sell in the store. They've already sold most of them.
Yay!
Ooh, that
Awesome.
rocks.
Awesome.
I think
And now
that's
you can take
something
that
we
and go
all
to
should
other
try
stores that
to
are
do.
similar and say, hey, look, it worked for these guys. How about you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can do your tour, go around to all these stores, bring your books, have them buy more. You know, you get the word out about you.
Yep.
And then, I mean, okay, this is the thing. Like, I do live stream shows, but I mean, like, you get on some like shows and talk about what you do, you tell people, and then they're like, oh my God, I'm going to check that book out. Now that I saw you, I totally want to read that.
Yep.
You know, like seeing how cool you are.
And you also have to think when you're doing the marketing end of things, you have to think about niches. So like my vampire novels, great, they're vampire novels. So if you like vampire, you're going to like them. If you like a certain amount of power exchange, you're probably going to like them. If you like a little bit of gore, but not over the top, you're probably going to like them. You know, I had to have the file put on my desktop saying, I'm an author, don't panic if I die and you looking at my browser history, because I spent an awful long time looking up sucking chest wounds because I wanted to write about one accurately, and you know, it's all good.
Like, she's a murderer.
No, I'm just an author.
My Facebook ads are so messed up.
Mine
So
too.
messed up.
Oh, yeah.
Not just from writing this, but also my clients. Like, I'm writing for a divorce lawyer. So now Facebook thinks I need a divorce lawyer. And I'm like, I really, really don't.
I love my husband. No.
I can't even tell you the things that show up on mine. No, really, I can't. I would get thrown off the air. But I mean, in the process of doing all this, it occurred to me that what I'm writing works for people who are cooking over a fire. So I started talking to people in the prepper community. People who do not just the doomsday preppers, because I kind of try and stay away from them.
Yeah.
No bunker mentality people, but there's a lot of people who, you know, have a bug out place, or they, you know, they like to cook outdoors and they like to do stuff at home. And I talk to them about, you know, how do you take these recipes and the techniques and use them for modern day cooking? I talk to a lot of people who do diet stuff, because reenacting, when you're talking about medieval cooking, there is nothing that's prepackaged.
Right.
They didn't have that. Therefore, it's automatically diet food because it's vegetable heavy and it has moderate amounts of meat in it. And, you know, because I am who I am, I included gluten-free recipes and vegetarian and vegan recipes and allium-free recipes, you know. But I mean, awesome. You think about these things, and then you can apply that to what you're doing. So...
All right, so I have a very important question.
Yes.
In what I just wrote, which again, being a plantser, I didn't know this was happening, but apparently one of my characters has a dog. I did not know that character had a dog until this very moment. So I don't have a name for the dog. So I was going to throw that out to y'all. So she's a black and white Great Dane. What is her name?
Alfred.
I like it.
You came really fast with that name, Allyson. Alfred.
Why? I have a random name generator in my brain.
I'm really glad. I'm going to ask you next time I need a name.
I just spew them out, and I have a personal thing where I don't. So my sci-fi novel, I have Josh, Jimmy, and James.
Because their parents all had J names or something?
Well, no, they're not related. It's Major James Fisher, Lieutenant Colonel Josh Cobb, and Sergeant Major Jimmy Stubbs. And I just randomly threw these all out. Well, when of course now I've got them all together in a landing party, and they're talking to each other, and it's like ja. And you know, one of my friends was like, "Don't you want to change the names?" I'm like, "Nope." I want you to think about it. If it was real life, would people go and change their names because there were lots of J names in the class? No. You have to deal with the 4 other Michaels in the class. Just deal. And
yes.
I do say, though, if you had everybody was named Mike in it, they'd at least once have to go, isn't it funny how we're all named Mike?
There's my very favorite television show, which Jill knows I will always bring things around to this. My very favorite television show, there's a character named Josh. The main character is Josh. And then there's a supporting character who is also named Josh. And they call him White Josh because he looks like Josh, except for that he is white. And it cracks me up every time.
Naming is important, though, right? You know, like it can make you laugh. It can make you, like, you know, if it's the wrong name for someone, it can make you kind of cringe every time you hear it. Or if it's a character you hated and you see it named, another character named the same name.
Mm-hmm.
My urban high
Exactly.
fantasy is like that. I have
sometimes the
names
name
that
has a
foreshadow.
meaning.
Nice.
And that's
Mine are
the fun of
usually
it. I
like when
mean,
I'm writing fiction, it's usually okay. What letter haven't I used in a while? Okay, what name can I do with that letter?
Right. Yeah, with this story, I'm really quickly Googling like top names in 1953. I'm like, what do I got? What do I got?
oh yeah.
You can
Well, that's
actually
very
look up.
helpful too.
You can look up dog names in 1953.
Dog
That's a
names?
good idea.
There are databases for frickin' everything. Everything.
I love
And
it.
you can go and look it up and pick, one of the more popular ones, or you can pick one of the ones at the other end of the scale. So
Let's see what the internet tells me. Oh, here, 500 old-fashioned dog names. Check that out. Find something good here.
Is Alfred one?
Alford is one of the top names for boy dogs. Alford.
Alford.
not bad.
See, that'd be a real unique name anyway. I don't
Yeah.
know. I like it. Oh man. So how do you think that happened that you all of a sudden had a dog?
Well, okay, yeah. I had my main character walking through a park and he had to meet somebody. And I'm like, what's the best way to meet somebody? Oh, they have a dog. Everybody wants to meet the person who's walking a dog.
It's true.
Especially if it's a
I mean,
Great
a lot of
Dane, because
people
those are
just
big, noticeable dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they're lovely too. They're
They
sweet.
What city
dogs.
are you in?
Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay. I was going to say, if you're in a big city, which Asheville wouldn't have been at that time,
No.
you would have to muzzle it, because the muzzle laws were really heavy in some of the bigger cities in the era.
Yeah, no, Asheville was still a pretty small town at the time. I mean, it's still a pretty small town now.
I'm dealing with all sorts of cool stuff in mine, because I have these bizarre aliens that I'm creating on the fly. And so I'm just describing them from the point of view of one of the characters as we go through, and I'm just making it very random and not like Star Trek, but like their uniforms are red, and so they're the one of the characters called them an away team the first time they went to the alien spacecraft, and everybody was like, "No, we don't use that term. No." You're in a red uniform. We don't use Star Trek terms. No.
That'd be awesome. Oh man, I love it. I just think it's fun how everybody's brain kind of brain kind of goes off in different directions with your stories,
Right.
I'm so influenced by geek culture that it's like everything. I'm trying to go, okay, I want to do something different, but I keep coming back to certain ideas because I'm formed by them.
Well, in my current sci-fi, the show Firefly actually has a second, third, fourth, and fifth season.
Nice.
It was done later, and it was a next generation of people who had taken over the ship after Mal and Zoe and everybody had gone. And it has become kind of the next century's Star Trek. It became a cultural phenomenon in the world. And so the characters throw out things like, oh, that's shiny. And they don't even think about where it comes from, because it's just so part of their culture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. How awesome is that? I love that. You get like these like other timeline kind of things too. I mean, there's so many potential possibilities that you could have so much fun with it. Love it. Well, kids, I'm thinking we got to do one more sprint before we go. What do you think?
All right.
Alrighty.
Let's do some more writing. So if you're at home, join us. Like get your computers out, get your abacus, get your righties, and I'm gonna get righty.
Your righty tighties.
Your righty tighty, lefty loosies.
Sorry.
I know I'm all over the place. So we start now. Mute yourself. until it ended. It randomly stops, and I'm like, oh yeah. I like that. How'd it go, guys?
Good. So it's funny, like going into this, I had 2 different topics I was going to write about, and I didn't write about either one.
Isn't that how it works?
Yep.
Sometimes you just go on a journey, and it takes you where it wants it to go. I was listening to a podcast on the way home, and it totally got into my head. At the end of what the person was talking about, she'd ask questions, and I'm like, oh, I want to add that to my book, a section of questions, and you answer each question. And so I it made it really easy, because I'm like, what's a question I want answered? And I may decide not to have question and answer in the book, but I can totally rewrite it into like the answers that I came up with and work them in somehow. But it's kind of weird how your brain goes with these things. Like, I'm going to do this today.
Yep.
And tomorrow you might be like, that was bonkers. I'm not doing that again. But still, I tried it. It was cool.
Yeah, and the novel that I just finished, that's in just a terrible state of disarray. Half of the novel is notes to self. Like, holy crap, this sucks. This isn't going to be in the final version. I'm going to need to rewrite this whole part.
Yeah. I think sometimes you get away from a book for a while too. It's like take a little mind vacation from it and then revisit it. Sometimes you get rid of the emotion that's tied to it.
Yes. And then you can see
I have a hard time because like if I'm too close to it, I get so angry and I'm like, it's not perfect. But if I like leave for a month and then I come back to it, I'm like, oh, I can fix this. This is actually way better than I thought it was. Exactly. And I've had that with a bunch of my past NaNoWriMos that I rage quit. And I'm like, this is a really good idea. I could actually go back and finish this someday. But I got so pissed off. I left so many things. But luckily I didn't burn it.
Right.
So at least I can come back.
I have a thing. So this is the repository of all trashy words.
Ooh.
I never throw away anything. Now I can rewrite, and if I rewrite, it's done. Okay, but if I decide to throw something out of a novel, it goes on here. This is a ridiculously huge piece of junk, and it all goes on here because maybe some year I'm going to not know what to write, and I'm going to go in here and pull it out and go, ooh, hey, that's tasty, and go with it.
This. Okay, so when you said that, I thought at first it was lady porn. So I'm glad that you clarified it. It was not lady porn.
Okay, there might be some of that on there too, but...
You never know. I've written so many different things in my life. It could be anything. But that's such a good idea, Allyson. I love that idea. Just keep it. Don't throw it all away. You keep what you wrote, and maybe later you might even use a little bit of it. You never know.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I have a whole folder of like copied and pasted just junk from other projects that are like, they're all titled things like, not going to use this. This is terrible. This won't end up in the novel. But you know what? Every once in a while I go back. I've had a couple of whole projects start because of a throwaway scene I had in something else. It didn't work for that, but then I realized the reason it didn't work for that is because that wasn't that story. So
right. I love that. So don't rage quit. Don't throw everything away and delete forever. Just keep it. Maybe later you'll use it. You never know.
Right.
Because gosh, if you can save time later, how awesome would that be? I need like one of those Hermione Granger time turners. Seriously. Like, the more busy I get, the more stuff I do. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I doing this?
So you know how
I'm gonna
go ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was like, I'm in a doctoral program now. I don't know how I'm even writing NaNoWriMo, but this is the best year I've ever done it. So I don't know. Just get really busy.
Yeah, well, yeah. I want more hours in my day, And so I have spite included them in my book. So onboard ship, since they can go by circadian rhythms as opposed to Earth rhythms, they have a 26-hour day.
Oh,
Nice.
lucky. Freaking lucky. I think 2 extra hours a day. Yeah, I would probably put Netflix into it, unfortunately.
They actually have a very complex thing. So they have, when they wake up, they have 2 hours of free time. They have 4 hours of work. They have an hour of free time. They have 4 hours of work. And then they have a bunch of time. And then they have 8 hours of sleep time.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
awesome.
Yeah,
it
that sounds
gives
good.
them a reasonable amount of work time, and they can work more if they want, or sleep more if they need to, or, you know, they can rearrange it how they want personally, but that's how their daily shift goes. And that 26 hours gives them time to get extra things done, and they don't feel tired because they're getting more sleep.
Right.
Oh,
So-
neat.
But yeah, I mean, when you
I
live on
need
a
that.
ship and there isn't day and night, then why not?
Exactly. And
Oh,
actually,
that
I
is
was
cool.
because I research everything. I spend so much time down the rabbit hole. So I went
yeah.
researching on NASA, and NASA talks about how circadian rhythms for the human body are actually better adapted to a 26-hour day than to a 24-hour day.
Huh.
And
So
so
you
left
have
on our
science
own with
behind
no other cues, no sunlight cues, we would adopt a 26-hour cycle.
So
Just
I'm
naturally.
already picturing you should upsell this to science people, you know, like go find those NASA guys and go, hey, remember that they said this? Like I wrote a book.
Hey, but for writing hours, remember, folks, we have an extra hour on Saturday night because we are ending daylight saving time. So use that hour.
Which is really good because my whole writing time, I'm going to be sitting in my booth selling books.
Oh yeah. So maybe a little extra time wouldn't be so bad then.
Yeah. But I do buffer. So one of the things that I do for Nano, which I push on others. I'm pushing it on you all. Judge
Yeah,
me if you
totally.
will.
Yeah.
So November is the worst possible time, except maybe December, to have National Novel Writing Month.
Right.
Because
I agree.
you have Thanksgiving and it's the beginning of flu season.
Yeah.
Who thought of
Everybody
this?
gets sick.
Like, really? Okay. So, and of
It's
course, the
too
plague
much
only
work.
made this even better because, you know, now if you get the sniffles, everybody's worried they're dying of COVID. So, you know, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, when I started doing Nano, the first year I did it, I did 1,667 words every day. And at the end of that word, I stopped. And that was it. And by about the second week, I was so far behind because life happened.
It does.
Now,
Right.
I don't do that. First off, I
Right.
will write until I don't feel like writing anymore. But
Yeah.
I have this complex system, right? So I have a minimum word writing of 1,667 words because that's what you have to write every day.
Yeah.
My goal is 2,000 words a day.
Me too.
Because if I have a week worth of 2,000 words a day, that gives me an extra 300 words a day, basically, to play with. So when Thanksgiving comes around and I decide I want to spend the day cooking turkey instead of writing, I don't have to feel the least bit guilty about it. I can just do it. Okay. But then I have other days. So I like a lot of times when you look at the NaNoWriMo calendars, they tell you need to be at 1,667 words the first day, and then now I have to go look it up because it's going to drive me nuts otherwise. And then the second day you have to be at 3,334, and then 5,001. And so I don't do that. Every time I write, I update the next day's numbers.
So you adjust it
up. So my minimum word count tomorrow is I ended at 23,200 words. My word count will be 23,200 words plus 1,667. That's my minimum, plus 2,000. That's my goal.
Right.
And if I write, and so I add that, and what that does is it means that I have breathing room. If I get sick, I can take a day off. If I really just have a day where I don't want to write, I can just not write.
Right.
If I want to go do something with my boyfriend and he's taking me out to a nice restaurant, I can not stress about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it makes writing a lot better because there are always going to be days when you can do those sprints. Today happened to be a great day for these because I'm at an exciting part in the book and I want to write more.
You're like, I want to do it.
Yeah. So I had things that I know kind of where the story's going. So I was like going nuts. Hi, words fall.
Yay. Welcome.
Not every day is like that. Some days I struggle with it. And that, so yeah, that's what I do with my numbers.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
I love that. And honestly, I was looking at the Wikipedia and they had like all these different examples. Like some people do a reverse NaNoWriMo where they start with a huge amount and then they work their way down.
Yep.
And I mean, like if you know at the end of the month you're going to get burnt out, maybe that'll work. The very last day they had you write one word. What is it, like the day before you go and then the last day you write end? I don't know. It seems like it'd be kind of complicated. But then they also have like word counts for if you wanted to write 300,000 words in a month, and that
Oh my God.
I mean, you have to write
that's too many.
10,000 words a day. I don't even know how that's possible. I would explode. But
I've done it where I've written 3,000 words a day. I can do 3,000 words a day without breaking a sweat if I really have to.
That's what I've done most of this. My aim is 2,000, but so far I've averaged about. I mean, it's only been 4 days, but I've just hit just over 10,000 words or 11. So I'm at 11 right now.
Yeah, but if I write that many words every day at the end of the month, I'm going to be not writing for a few days at all because I'm going to be done. And so that's, the rest of the year I don't write on the weekends. I don't write. My weekends are my fun time and, they're sacrosanct. But during NaNoWriMo, they're not. Everybody just knows. They just leave me the hell alone.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it gets easier. The first time $1,000 check comes in the mail, all of a sudden everybody's like, you want November off? Sure. You go, girl.
Well, because then they see that there is a reward to it. Even though you may never, ever get money in it, it is a reward to you when you finish it. And
yes,
you're happy with it. I feel like that's the ultimate. Money is nice. I'm not going to say no to money, but I'm like, just knowing I finished something, dang, that feels good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was just looking. Oh God, I can't stop looking at those numbers. I'm like, oh God. So, I mean, like even in this half hour, I jumped up and ran to the bathroom real quick during it. And I still wrote about 800 words, 870 words, which some of it is crap. But, there's a couple good sentences in there that I can totally see it's going to work out. But, I mean, and that was me sort of being distracted. If I'm really in the zone, I can get more. Mm-hmm. But for me, this dictation stuff, it's like a revelation this year. I have to say, if you have really good, lots of notes, I use Zoom to do it. And so I'm almost like presenting like I am now, like talking to the camera.
Yeah.
And it goes so freaking fast. I can do a half an hour and get about 5,000 words.
Nice.
Crazy. So if I actually like know what I'm going to talk about, it's great. I can get through so much, but the editing is going to be a pain.
See, I type so fast. I can type almost as fast as most people talk.
Oh man, I can't. I'm super slow. I'm so slow.
120 words a minute. I type 120 words a minute.
You're so lucky. you can blaze through it.
Yeah, except so originally, this is my upstairs office. My bedroom is actually behind me, and this is a little bump out that I use as my office. Yeah. And so I have like little things here, and it goes up. And,
neat.
This is my place because nobody needs to see my private stuff. But this is a nice. It's got a good visual and all that. So I have my writing space here, but I used to write downstairs. We have an office that's in 2 rooms. And my hubby writes and he works from home and he's a programmer. So he's writing in one and he has meetings all the time.
Yeah.
So my first NaNoWriMo in this house, I was in my office, which was right around the corner from his office. And I had a really good roll going. I had the story coming through and it was great. And I'm typing away and I close my eyes when I type because I touch type and I'm going a mile a minute. You know what I typed?
What'd
I
you say?
typed everything that he said in his meeting.
Oh no!
I lost everything because it went in my ears
Dude.
and out my fingers. And that was the last time. I was like, no.
Dude, no way.
We're
Oh,
writing
that's-
someplace else now.
Yes. I need to be by myself. I can't have people distracting me. The cats don't distract me that much, but people do.
Yep, same
I
here.
couldn't do it.
And I have specific music I usually listen to as well.
Me
Oh,
too.
that
Yeah,
helps.
I've got a playlist. I tried the other day. I just wasn't thinking. I was in my office writing. Usually I take my laptop to the couch and put my headphones on and type. But I just happened to be at my desk and I'm like, oh, I've got something I want to write. So I was writing it and I realized I kept getting distracted. And I was like, holy crap, I need my headphones. I need to listen to music. Like I can't do this without that.
I can do silent, but when I'm writing, I tend to write with smooth jazz. Like
Oh, yeah.
the stuff that you had behind Mr. Rogers.
That's very specific.
I listen to an Icelandic band called Sigaros.
Oh,
Yes.
And the reason I do is because they don't sing in English. Because if they
Yes.
sing in English, I get distracted by it.
Yeah, because then I start putting those words into my writing, and I
Right.
totally get it. I like it when it's like kind of orchestral, and it has to have like the right kind of mood. Yeah, I find a lot of stuff on YouTube where it's like sci-fi orchestral or horror, depending on what I'm writing, and then I get into this total mood. But I can't do that as much when I'm doing dictation though, because then I'm like talking and singing. But but I tell you, maybe someday I'll release the recorded videos, and that'll be like an added bonus for fans of whatever book I write. And they're like, you can listen to me talk, and like
Perfect.
it'll be bizarre, but
So
I think we did really good today. I'm so proud.
Yay.
Yes, and before we do go, I wanted to mention real quick a trick that someone taught me this year. Well, two tricks. One, several years ago, someone told me to name your main character a 2-word name, because if you have to type 2 words every time you're typing their name, that's 2 extra words. That's 1 extra word. So I started. Not all of my characters have 2 names, but there's a pretty significant one in my first novel that does, and yeah, that's how I'm doing it. But also today, or not today, like a couple weeks ago, I was doing a nano prep situation with an author, and she gave this advice, and I think it is the best thing. When you're writing, don't end at the end of a chapter. Start the next chapter and write 2 sentences. Because then when you come back to it, you see where you left off. Like it wasn't just like the end of a thought and you're over and you're done. You're in the middle of something. So then you can just pick right up where you left off.
Just go right into it.
Well, the other thing is that if you stop at an exciting point, you go to bed knowing that you'll dream about it a bit and your brain will work through it. But when you sit down the next day, you're not like, what am I going to write today? See how I skillfully changed that word? But you sit down going, oh, I get to write about.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a whole mood changer.
And how the city dealt with it, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, writing. I always picture myself like those cats that they have in the memes.
Kermit the Frog.
Like yes. When I have a really good idea, that's what I imagine it looks like. But it's probably just me going typing.
Speaking of my cat, I hear her meowing outside this door, so I should probably leave.
Well, I think I'm gonna go have dinner and cuddle my kitties too. But I had such a fun time tonight.
Me too.
Really
Thanks for bringing me on.
And thanks for the extra buffer zone in my writing.
Yes.
Yes. I figure it helps us all out, and then we can talk about it, and it gets me excited about it. So if you want to join me next week, ladies, you're totally welcome to come back, and we can write again and talk some more. And if you guys at home want to do some writing with us, I'm going to be doing it again next Thursday. So keep writing, keep your good ideas going, and have a great week. Keep going with the flow. And I'm gonna do the music on the way out, and we will see you next week. Bye guys. Thank you.
Bye.